The history of Chaos Titans began during the Horus Heresy, when vast numbers of Adeptus Mechanicum and their towering war machines defected to the traitor legions. Over a millennia of exposure to the warp, these once holy machines devolved into grotesque amalgamations of machine and demon. The line between pilot and engine blurred. Crews became permanently fused into the command deck, with their lives unnaturally sustained by dark magic.
Brothers and sisters of the Warhammer universe, welcome back to Tortuga's Grim Rosaline. My name is Jeff, and today we're going to be going over Chapter 7 of our Chaos Warlord Titan build. In this episode, we're going to be going over painting all of the different Titan armor, including the regular armor and the warp demon-infused armor. There were a lot of different steps and process that I used going over this, a lot of things I learned along the way, and I'm beyond excited to share it with all of you. But first, before we do all that, I need you to go down below there on the YouTube and click all those YouTube thingies that you do so well. Like, share, subscribe. And now that that's out of the way, let's do this.
So here's a list of all the paints that we'll be using on this build. So we're going to start off priming all of the armor plates and the head using Stynylrez Black Primer. I'm a big fan of this primer. I've been using all different kinds between Citadel, Vallejo, and a couple others, and this one I feel comes out the smoothest, the cleanest, and doesn't chip like a lot of the other ones do. And just like anything, we're going to be doing 2 thin coats on all of our plates front and back. And before we paint and prime anything on the back, we want to make sure that we're taping all the connector areas from all the plates to make sure that those areas are going to connect between the actual body of the Titan and the armor are as clean as possible, so that glue or milliput or epoxy or anything that we're going to be using is going to be able to grip in and connect to those with very few issues. And trust me, there are a lot of armor pieces between the upper and lower body of this Titan, so we're going to be here for a while. Matter of fact, there are so many pieces that the Horus Heresy audiobook that I was listening to, I'm pretty sure I went through 2 complete chapters by the time I was finished just priming all these pieces. Next up, we're going to be using Vallejo's Bone White through our airbrush. We're going to be airbrushing the 2 shield armor plates that connect off of each of the shoulders to the Titan, as well as the inner armor pieces to the shin. All 4 of these have a lot of little skulls that look really cool on here, and we're going to make this effect with these to help make corroded, dark, burnt, decaying skulls connected to the armors. And of course, we're going to airbrush 2 thin coats on here. We really want this bone white to pop out and really stand out against the rest of the armor that this Titan is going to be having. Next up, we're going to be using Vallejo's Gory Red, and we're going to be using this through our airbrush. So with all of the demonic flesh pieces, we're going to be using it to completely cover all of those primed pieces with the Gory Red. And for any of the armor pieces, we're going to tape off to make patterns going on each of those armor plates between black and red. We really want to bring out this style that I'm coming up with for this type of Titan. And like everything, we're going to go through and do 2 thin airbrush coats on all of these pieces where we're putting the Gory Red. We want that red to really stand out against this Titan. We're now going to switch over to the paintbrush, and with this we're going to use Citadel's Retributor armor. We're going to use the Retributor armor on all of the emblems that are on the black sides of the armor. Do not put the Retributor armor onto the red. We're going to cover that when we get to that in a little bit here, but what we want to do is really want to make these logos kind of shift depending on what background color we have. And I'm sure you know what I'm going to say here, especially dealing with metallics. We're always going to do 2 thin coats on all of the emblem areas that we're painting. We want to really bring that gold out and make it stand out as much as possible. And yes, I know I say it a lot, we want to make that gold pop. And now it's time for the other side. We're going to use Vallejo's Game Color Silver, and we're going to continue on to the emblems. Anywhere that was on the red area of the armor. So we want to make sure whatever is coming from the black is the gold and whatever's coming from the red is the silver, including when they start to go over both sides. I think this is going to really make a really nice logo. It's going to stand out from any other builds that you might have. And yes, being a metallic paint, we're going to do 2 thin coats to make that silver pop. And it's become that time again for every Chaos Collector's favorite thing to do, the dreaded Chaos Trim. We're going to use Vallejo's Model Air Copper Metallic, and we're going to be doing 2 thin coats around all of the trim on all of the armor pieces. Again, long process, it's going to take a while, but it's going to be worth it. And remember, take your time while you're doing the trim, but if you do happen to go over, it's going to be alright because we can touch up afterwards. Next, we're going to switch over to the dry brush, and we're going to be using Citadel's Emperor's Children. We're going to use this on all of the possessed flesh armor panels, and we're going to start to dry brush on the base areas of all of the regular flesh. And seeing that this is a dry brush, we're going to go 2 to 3 passes on each of these plates. We really want to bring out that pink on the flesh areas as opposed to all of the scarred and ripped up, torn areas of the flesh. Once we finish with the Emperor's Children, we're then going to dry brush over all of that again with Citadel's Tarrarn Sand. We want to really bring out a pale area, leaving the outer areas still in that pink Emperor's Children. And again, you'll probably want to do 2 to 3 coats of this to really bring out that color. We're now going to switch over to some oils and enamels. First, we're going to be using my oil version of Druchi Violet, which is going to be Winsor & Newton's Cadmium Red and French Ultramarine. We're going to be making a deep red with this, and we're going to be putting this on all of the open wounds and scarred areas on any of the demonic armor plates. Once the oil wash dries, we're going to switch over to Villainy Ink's Carrion Crimson, going in the same places. This is going to help bring out just a little bit more of that red, especially around the flesh area, and the speckles are going to help bring out a openly agitated wound area. Next, we're going to be using Villainy Ink's Caput Mortuum, and we're going to be using this on all the flesh areas to really bring in and make a worn out, decaying skin look on all of the flesh. And don't worry if some of these areas become too dark with the Caput Mortuum, we can always follow back through with a Q-tip and lightly remove any areas or move it around to where we might want it to look more. Next, we're going to be using Yriel Yellow, and we're going to use this on any of the eyes on any of the demonic pieces of flesh armor. We want to make it look like it's almost an infected looking eye. And of course, we're going to be going through with 2 thin coats just to really bring that yellow out. Up next, we're going to be using Citadel's Emperor's Children. So we're going to dry brush this, and we're going to go over any of the open wound areas and just lined out like intestines or anything that's just protruding out. We're going to lightly dry brush just to help highlight these and bring these up from those wound areas. So it's important that I stress that this is a very light dry brushing. We just want to enhance any of the organs or muscles, highlight those coming out of the wounds and the ripped flesh, and not overpower the actual red. Next, we're going to do my oil wash version of Fugan Orange, and that's Winsor & Newton's Cadmium Red and Cadmium Orange. We're going to use this wash over all of the infected eyes that we did on the warped demon armor areas. We're going to make these eyes look like a glowing effect from the sides of the eyes into the slits. Next, we're going to be using Citadel's Carrion Crimson and Druchi Violet. We're going to be using these to give nice shading areas to blood blisters and pox marks all over the head and different areas of the armor. We're next going to use Citadel's Iyanden Yellow, and we're going to use those for more pus-filled areas on the corrupted armors. And we're right back to doing our favorite part of any sort of chaos build, more chaos trim. We're going to be using Vallejo's Model Air Copper Metallic, and we're going to be doing all the trim now on all of the warped demonic armor pieces. And of course, we're going to be doing 2 thin coats to really bring out that copper air. And normally I say, hey, don't worry about going over things because we can touch up. But with this one, I want to stress that we want to be as careful as possible with these. We've done so much shading and really nice work on all of these demonic warped armor pieces that we don't want to have that copper go in, but we will and we can take steps to go through and correct any over smears or anything that happen to go into the armor. And yes, this will definitely take up a lot of time. This is another area that I say, hey, put on a good audiobook or run something on YouTube and just let your mind go while you're going through this and doing this process. I'm pretty close on this build alone. I probably listened to 2 different audiobooks for the Horus Heresy throughout this entire time. So next we're going to work on the lenses on the Titan's head itself. And we're going to start off with Vallejo model color white. We're going to do 2 coats of this white to really bring out that nice brightness. After that's dried, we're going to go in with Citadel's Magos purple and Waystone green. And I like to go every other lens just to bring out that area. Let it dry just so you don't get any tackiness, and then go back in with those colors again to really bring out those eyelet colors. Next, we're going to work on the cables under the head, and we're going to use Citadel's Dark Reaper and Yriel Yellow. I like to do the inner, thicker cable with the Dark Reaper, and the bunch of smaller cables tacked together with the Yriel Yellow. Again, with both of these, we're going to do 2 layers to really bring out those colors, especially the yellow. It always takes a couple layers to really bring that in and not look blotchy. Next, we're going to use Villainy Ink Ex Machina, and we're going to use this on all the metallic parts on the armor pieces. With this, we're going to use our hairdryer, and we're going to bring out that rust effect using this, and it's going to come out really faded and weathered. Next up is going to be Villainy Ink's Goons Grime. We're going to use this to go over any of the teeth, bone areas, any of the gold emblem areas, and as well as the black or red armor areas to give it a nice weathered effect. And like we did with the Ex Machina, we're going to go ahead and we're going to use the hairdryer to really dry this out and give it a nice effect on there that you wouldn't get just letting it dry normally. I'm also going to be putting this on the copper around the trim to really bring out a nice darker color on these metallic areas. Again, with the hairdryer, it's going to give it a nice offsetting effect. And just like any of these enamels, if anything you feel is too overpowering or too much on a side, we can always come back with a Q-tip and we can rub those areas off or move them around into a nicer area, which is one of the great things about enamels. Next up is Villainy Ink's Coelia Green. We're going to put this on all of the copper trim areas. This is going to give that nice tarnished weather effect on here. And just like everything else, we're going to be using our hairdryer while we're going through this. One tip with Coelia Green I have found, the longer you let it sit, the greener and darker it becomes. So if you want this to just be a slightly tarnished look, you're going to want to only take a little out of the bottle at a time and apply it to areas and then blow dry it, and then after take more out of the bottle. Don't just let it sit, because the longer it sits, like I said, the darker it will become. And just like any other type of enamel, if you're using too much or you think it's getting too dark, don't worry about it. We can always take a Q-tip, even use some mineral spirits on that Q-tip to remove any areas that we need to, or move it around to other areas, and we can even clear it completely off and start from scratch with some fresh Coelia. And we finally made it to the highlights. We're going to be using Green Stuff World's Bronze Chrome Metal. So with this, it's a very bright, very metallic, and it's going to look awesome against all of your weathered and grimdark pieces. We're going to be putting this on all of the rivet tips or any areas of corners or tips of emblems or any of the trim or anything along this. It's going to give that nice little peek out, especially on pictures or videos that you might take with this. And talking about highlights and final steps, with our bone shields and bone shin guards there, if you want to, go ahead, use some Citadel's Blood for the Blood God and spray it on there. Make it look like this has been an impacted war area. Can't do Grimdark without a whole lot of blood. And there you have it. Grimdark, Chaos, Warlord Titan armor. Looking gory, gruesome, twisted from the warp itself. So much so that if another opposing soldier even looked at this, they would cower to their knees. I hope you liked this tutorial, and I hope that you maybe found something that you might want to do and use on one of your next future builds. And like I always say, Grim for the Grim Rosaline.